Jillian Pensavoli.
Hey, Patrick Hines.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about there's something wrong with Aunt Diane.
I feel like I'm in a cloud. Like I'm in like a haze.
I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Guys, this is
know.
rough, but you wanted it, so we're giving it to you.
So here we are.
911. Hi, I'm on the Taconic Expressway. The car is going like 70 miles an hour in the wrong direction. Bad accident. Route 117.
Is there any injuries?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of kids.
I want to know what happened to my wife. What they're saying is not true, or I wouldn't be doing this.
I said to Diane, have a safe trip home.
If she stopped for Advil, something was bothering her.
If you just come forward and say, I'm sorry, she made a mistake, you could accept that. What are you trying to cover up?
You tell me she was having a stroke or she was hallucinating due to an abscess, we're going to have to live with that.
There will never be a concrete answer with absolute certainty which can be given as to what happened.
All right, so Jillian, tell the people this is how we're going to do this episode.
Yeah, this movie is very well done, but it's not the best to talk about on a podcast because
everywhere.
It goes everywhere. So what we're going to do is talk about just the timeline of what happened, the incident, the crime.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go back and talk about the people we meet during this documentary. There are many of them.
So the husband and wife are Dan and Diane Schuler, not Skylar.
Not Skylar. My phone and computer autocorrect it to Skylar.
That's a Hamilton reference, people. Okay, so this happens on a camping trip. What is the date of the camping trip?
So it's Sunday. Well, it's this whole weekend. It's the weekend of Sunday, July 26, 2009.
And who all is in attendance?
So it's the Schulers, Diane and Daniel Schuler, their children, and then their nieces.
And they have an older son named Brian and a younger daughter,
Erin.
Yeah. And then there's the three nieces. So basically they've gone on this they've gone to this like very fancy looking campground.
Yes.
And they've been there all weekend. And now, so according to Daniel, on the morning of the day, he wakes up and he goes and cleans the boat at around 6 a.m.
You do what you got to do, he said. I take his word for it. I've never cleaned a boat.
He comes back. He wakes up Diane like around 6:45, 7 o'clock. We got to clean up the campa. The way he says campa all the way throughout this movie. Campa.
To beat the traffic. Is that just feels so New York and local to
Listen,
me?
I grew up on Cape Cod, and so I know all about beating the traffic.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
you do what you got to do, Dan. I'm with you. Listen, I know it.
Beat that traffic. They load up the car. They have 1, 2, 3 cups of coffee, and they're on their way.
They do. That's correct. They're on their way.
So they planned it where Daniel would take the dog in his car, and Diane, this was planned. Like they borrowed a minivan for the sake of Diane driving the kids home.
Right.
Now at 9 a.m., Diane's brother, Warren Hance, receives a call from his daughter, Emma.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. They're on their way. Everything's great. Now Warren and Jackie are the parents of the 3 additional children in the car.
All of whom die.
Yes. And they do not participate in this documentary, very understandably.
Oh my God. I can't even.
So at 9:30, both cars are on their way.
Yeah.
By 9:56 a.m., they stop at the McDonald's in Liberty, New York. The employee says she didn't seem drunk. She didn't smell drunk.
Investigators from the Liberty station were able to obtain a video from the McDonald's, which was time-stamped. It showed Diane Schuler enter the McDonald's with the children. We additionally interviewed the McDonald's employee who served her. He said that he did remember her and did not remember her being intoxicated or smelling of alcohol. The children were playing in the playground. They seemed to be having a good time. Through this video, we saw no obvious signs of intoxication.
I remember the first time I saw this movie. This was important. Like, this is the second witness. We haven't much talked yet about Ann Scott. We'll get back to her.
Yeah.
The proprietress of the campground.
Sure.
In her golf cart. I love her so much.
Saying hello to everybody.
But like my mother, knowing nobody's actual name.
Oh, no. Why? I mean, it's a revolving door of guests. She doesn't have time for that.
So, but Anne also says that she's like, seems sober to me, like, so at this point by 9:56, everyone's fine. Next stop is 10:45. They go to the gas station. If you've ever been on the internet, you've seen this video of Diane Schuler.
Like pulling out, like getting gas.
Yeah.
And then we see her in the convenience store of the gas station. She
looks fine.
There's the Sunoco video where you see her at the pump getting out of the car, and then she goes in at the gas station. Then she goes in and apparently asks for some sort of pain meds, which they don't have.
She walked in, spoke to the clerk. We don't know what was said. There's no audio. And walked out with nothing. Again, there was no obvious signs of intoxication at this time.
At 11:37 a.m., Diane calls Jackie, who's the mother of the nieces in the car. They're running late.
But they also have to make plans because they're getting tickets to see the kids in the local school play.
Right. And Jay, who we'll get to, calls it play practice.
Diane called and said we're running a little late because the girls had play practice.
It's rehearsal, Jay. Please. It's rehearsal. Play practice. Okay. Around 12:30, there are witnesses who see the car changing lanes aggressively, say that the driver, Diane, was clutching the wheel. She sort of looked like she was on a mission. So even though the car is driving erratically, there's also a feeling of precision in how she's driving.
Right. Like she's not swerving. She's not,
Yeah, she's changing lanes but not swerving, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
It's all very deliberate.
Yeah.
But each time it made the movement, the vehicle was it was very precise. Like it would move into the lane, it would move out of the lane, and it was done with some degree of precision.
At 12:55 p.m., a wrong number is dialed from Diane's phone.
Right. We don't know who it is. They don't say who it ended up being. Nothing. At 1:01 p.m., Diane calls Jackie and Warren. She sounds disoriented.
Again, that's the parents of the 3 girls who are in the car.
Mm-hmm. The call only lasted about 2.5 minutes. It was very confusing, so Warren calls back.
Warren calls back, and he says later to the police that she sounds disoriented, doesn't sound like herself. She calls him Danny, which is her husband's name. Mm-hmm. And the kids were crying in the background.
Right.
This has gone from 0 to a million.
A million.
The kids are now hysterical in the background.
Right. So that's 101. At 102, Diane's oldest niece gets on the phone. And this is where we get, there's something wrong with Aunt Diane.
Yeah.
And I just got full body chills. Aunt Diane can't see. There's something wrong with her.
She's talking to her parents.
Yes. This is the oldest niece, Emma. And then
they pull over. So they pull over and the parents are like, Emma, where are you? Look for a sign. And she sees a sign that says Terrytown.
Right.
Warren jumps into his car and tears off for Terrytown.
Right. So he goes from Long Island, which is where the family's based, and flies to the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Yeah.
It's so obviously,
right.
What else on earth are you going to do? So then by 1:10 now,
they're back in the car.
Yeah. And 3 wrong numbers are dialed from Diane's phone.
Right. Yeah.
We have no idea who, why, what, how, whatever.
Right.
Then Warren calls again at 1:15. It goes
to voicemail.
Then the cops say at around this time, she leaves her phone on the divider of when they were pulled over. Now, the police didn't pull them over. Diane just had the car pulled over.
Yeah. Yeah.
She leaves her phone on the Jersey barrier, the divider at the Tappan Zee Bridge.
The phone was located right after the Tappan Zee Bridge tolls on a pull-off off to the right. Someone had found her cell phone sitting on a guide rail.
And this is her normal route. This is the route that she would have taken to go home.
Right.
But then she diverges.
Right.
Her entire route up until the Tappan Zee Bridge is consistent with what she would have normally done. Then it becomes unclear as to why she got off the highway and where she went.
She gets to the Taconic, and that's where she gets on the highway going the wrong way.
Right.
We know that Diane Schuler enters the Taconic State Parkway going south in the northbound lane, approximately 1.7 miles north of the point of impact. She drives this 1.7 miles at a high rate of speed, and you have half a dozen callers to 911.
And she crashes head on into a car carrying
the Bastardi family.
And it is, they show a computer animation of what happened to all the cars, and her car just spins off the highway up onto the embankment, and the kids are thrown. Everyone is thrown from the car.
Yeah, the 3 people in the oncoming car, all 3 of them also die, and everyone in both cars except for Brian,
Diane's son.
Right.
And he's severely injured.
Yes.
But he's okay, guys.
Yeah, he has eye injuries. He has to do these eye exercises every day, and he's really good at them.
He is really good at them.
Really well at them. So good for you, Brian. You're being awesome.
So that's what happened, and what we come to find.
And we're done. Do we have to keep talking about it?
So
the whole thing about this documentary is that it's such a mystery. What was wrong with Aunt Diane? What happened?
Yeah.
So we'll go into not just the people that we meet, but the autopsy, what was found in her bloodstream, why she maybe acted the way she did.
Yeah.
And we're going to speculate wildly.
So it sort of all starts with a press conference, right?
Yeah.
So 4 days after the accident, the police hold a press conference, and some bombshells are dropped.
Yeah.
The toxicology from that autopsy shows that Diane Schuler had a blood alcohol content of 0.19%. The legal limit for intoxication in New York State is 0.08%. Toxicology also reveals that Diane Schuler had a high level of THC. THC is the active ingredient contained in marijuana.
The weight is what's very important in calculating the number of drinks, and with that level of alcohol, it's approximately 10 drinks are still in her at this time.
Now, I will say that there is a close-up of Betsy Spratt in the background. She's the director of toxicology in Westchester County, and she does not enjoy being there.
She also has no time for bullshit, yours or anybody else's. We'll get to her, because she knows more than you.
Yeah.
Just ask her. She'll tell you.
Okay, so in response, a few days later, Daniel holds his own press conference, and Jay is there by his side.
Right. Jay is Daniel's sister-in-law.
Right.
Jay is married
Jay's a woman.
Jay is a woman. Jay is married to Daniel's brother.
Right.
And she becomes... It's really Daniel and Jay who are really leading the investigation into the fact that Diane did not have the blood alcohol level.
They just can't believe it. Mm-hmm. Like everything in this documentary, this press conference is sprinkled throughout. We're going to kind of go through the whole press conference right now.
Right.
So they think so at this press conference, Daniel is saying that she's the perfect wife, the perfect mother. He'd marry her again tomorrow. There's something has gone wrong with this autopsy, and she would never do this.
Listen to this. I go to bed every night knowing my heart is clear. She did not drink. She's not an alcoholic. Listen to all that. She is not an alcoholic, and my heart is rested every night when I go to bed. Something medically had to happen.
They are convinced that there was a medical thing that happened.
Yeah, the idea that maybe she had a stroke.
They think something other than alcohol is what caused her to have a blood alcohol level of 0.19. That's really...
But then a reporter throws a question to the family.
Whew.
Mr. Schuler.
Can you explain the bottle of vodka?
Sir. Yeah, the state police tells that there was a bottle of absolute vodka in the van. Do you know where that came from?
Oof.
Not a softball, guys. Not a softball.
That is overhanded.
Right.
Wow.
So it turns out that there was a bottle of vodka found in the car.
Yeah, there was the big bottle of Absolute that you would find, the big glass bottle.
Yeah, but now they're coming back from a camping trip. You know what I mean? They're packed for the weekend. There's no way I would go into the woods without a big bottle of vodka.
Right. You put the kids to bed.
Exactly.
You're hanging out behind the campfire. What? You're hanging out at the campfire. It's just the Schuler family is just instant denial. Nope. Just say you guys had a couple cocktails after the kids
and she
went to
smoked
bed.
some pot.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Don't say, Daniel does this. It's a trend throughout the whole thing. No, she never smoked pot. Never? Well, occasionally, but she never did it. And it's in the same breath contradicts. Just say she smoked weed to relax.
Right.
If she's really this perfect mother who had control of everything and 3 kids and all their activities, and then they reference Daniel's own mother is Daniel was her oldest child.
Right. Yeah. She's got a high-powered job.
She's taking care. If she needs some weed to go to sleep, whatever, man.
Right. You do you.
But for them to deny, and then all of these scientific facts come out, and then it's no, it's just it's a bad look. Just say it, man.
So let's talk a little bit more about Jay.
Okay.
I love Jay.
Jay's got a heart of gold.
Heart of gold, hair of gold.
Gold jewelry, gold everything.
She also, in the background of every single shot, there's a pack of cigarettes. Every single shot with Jay, there's a pack. And then at one point, she's like, nobody in my family knows I smoke.
No one in my family knows I smoke. So this is gonna be
Well, Jay has a thing about the word ironic. Jay doesn't really know what the word ironic means. Yep. Everything's ironic. So at the end of the movie where she's nobody knows I smoke. So they're finding all these things out about Diane that they didn't know.
Yeah.
And then she's like, my family's going to find out that I smoke in this documentary. I was like, Jay, sweetheart, that's irony. That's when you use the word ironic. Missed opportunity.
Also, that Jay, God bless her soul, walks into every room smelling like an ashtray.
Her hand is like this. She I feel like it's just morphed into the cigarette, holding a cigarette position.
But Jay,
everyone knows you smoke, Jay.
Everyone needs to have a Jay in their life. Jay is the most amazing woman. She immediately steps in to take care of Brian. She's a surrogate mom. She's there's a black screen that says, She takes care of him 3 to 4 days a week and on the weekends.
I'm like, so every day.
It's always
That's
there.
every day.
She has this really sweet story where she, she's like reflecting. She really looked up to Diane. Mm-hmm. And there's the moment where Jay tells us that Diane had asked her to be the godmother for their daughter, mm-hmm. and how much it meant to her.
Diane, like, when she asked me to be a godmother of Erin, I'm like, oh my God, she really does like me. I was like so thrilled.
People really wanted to be liked by Diane. That's another theme.
Jay also really loved true crime.
I'm very big into mystery shows. I live for watching those. And even before this, that's all I would watch. And it's just ironic to me that I feel like I'm on one of them.
You see her scrolling the internet. She's like watching the video of Diane at the gas station on one of those like...
It's on Newsday.com.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Newsday is like the Long Island newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
I've watched this like numerous times, over and over again. And she was fine. And that's what's frustrating.
Yeah, and also, like, she reads the YouTube comments. Girl, you never read the YouTube comments.
No, not ever.
They are awful and vile. You don't do that. And then she's like, look what they call Diane. Of course.
I know.
Get off the YouTube comments. It's the worst place ever on the internet.
We'll come back to Jay. Jay is with us throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to leave Jay. Jay's just going to be hanging out.
There's 2 other characters I want to talk about really quickly. Daniel's lawyer.
Dominic Barbara. Can we talk about him for a
minute? Let's talk about Dominic Barbara. So, first of all, he is so self-important.
You know why they came to me? Originally? To go public. That was from day one. They didn't just pick my name out of a hat. They wanted to go public. And I still think it was the right thing to do.
Well, he did represent Joey Buttafuoco.
Is that his claim to fame?
Yes! He is the worst.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
Like, he is just the sleazier, the better. He loves it. He loves it. He loves it. And fun fact, he also he worked with Michael Lohan.
Oh, good. Great.
And he was arrested for stalking, extorting, and harassing his ex-wife. He's a winner. And single, ladies. This is the type of guy we're
right. And at one
here.
point, he's like, I've taken a lot of heat for taking this case.
I've taken more grief on this case than some of the really Buttafuoco and Jessica Hahn cases of the 70s and 80s. And my friendship with certain celebrities, this took more heat.
And it cuts to like the 5th character from the right from your favorite show, The Sopranos.
It's Michael Imperioli. Yeah. And then he of course finds a way to make it about him. He's like, this has been a very emotional case for me. For you?
This has been a very painful, emotionally painful experience, this case.
But then he also hooks the family up with the dirtbaggiest of dirtbag private investigators. So the idea is that they want to get Diane's body like exhumed and retested. They want like a new autopsy. They want to somehow prove that she had a medical situation that made this happen and that she wasn't actually drunk.
Right. And the documentary crew is like, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Like, we'll help you do this, but are you okay that you might not like what you hear?
Right.
And they're like, yes. Spoiler. No.
Right. So they get this private, the lawyer hooks them up with his private investigator who's worked on like all these big high profile cases, who basically is like, I need money for this, I need money for this, I need money for this, and then just disappears.
Tom Ruskin, right?
Tom Ruskin. Yeah.
And then everything was about, all right, well, we got to get this done. I'm getting the samples. I'm getting this. I'm getting that. And we're going to need more money. $10,000 and $30,000. We don't have this money. We're taking it from here, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And Diane was the breadwinner. But I convinced everyone. Follow Tom. Tom's going to do it. And nothing was done. Nothing was done. How do you do that to people?
So, but here's the thing about that makes me like, maybe they just didn't like what he told them.
Oh, right.
I mean, there is one point where like the documentary crew calls them and they're like, listen, you did get some stuff tested. Can we have that?
Hi, Tom.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm okay. How you doing?
Good, just a little bit busy. When I was speaking to my people, my agent, my attorney, they said $25,000. Otherwise, it's just not worth your time.
Right. It's just not even in the ballpark of what documentaries,
Hey.
Right.
We wouldn't supply the test results. We would not supply, the pictures and the video. It's not worth us getting it out of archive and out of where we've stored it, running around and spending our time doing that versus working for a client for tens of thousands of dollars a day.
And Liz Garbus, the documentarian, is like, oh, hi, we're a documentary.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No documentary has that
She's
money.
like, I live in a storage unit. I make documentaries.
Right. And then amazing woman that she is, she's like, I'll just fucking get them myself. Yeah. And then she does.
Yeah, of course.
And she gets all these medical records and the dental records. Yeah. And then, of course, Jay's like, I find it ironic that you got the... Jay.
Well, but it is kind of a bombshell. Like, what do we learn when they get these medical records?
So Diane had some tooth issues.
Then an oral exam, no cleaning, so obviously she was still having pain. Yeah, she had it. She had the root canal. Then they went to go in and do more. She really would not get that finished. It was she just hated it, right?
Too much pain.
She was getting root canals that apparently were not going well.
She left in the middle of one?
She left in the middle. So like a root canal is a multi-appointment process, but they say that she got up in the middle of one of the root canal appointments and just left.
And, like, no one, like, Daniel doesn't really have any information about this. Like, it seems like Jay and Daniel are learning about this for the first time.
Right.
And then we also learned that this was another thing that Diane did. She never wanted anyone to know that anything was less than perfect. She was never in any pain. Like, she kept all of that a secret. And, I mean, for years, I mean, those dental records are from like 2005 to 2008.
Right, exactly.
So this is she's been in a lot of pain, and several people have said that she was rubbing her jaw in in the days and months leading up to the crash. She was rubbing her jaw a lot.
Yeah.
And this was something that was really plaguing her a lot.
Yeah.
You guys ever have conversations about any kind of pain she was having?
You know, I know she did have issues with, like, especially that last week, every time I would see her, she would be holding her jaw or moving her mouth around, you know, like moving her lower jaw.
Speaking of Diane, this is like a good time to interject her backstory. Mm-hmm. So we get some backstory about Diane, right?
Yeah, she was the youngest of 4. She was the only girl.
Yeah.
When she was 9 years old, her mother left. And she didn't like talking about it.
Just left the family.
Just left the family.
At this point in the documentary, it's kind of a mystery as to why the mom left. Like, Daniel doesn't really know.
What did she say about her?
That she left when Diane was young. She didn't like bringing it up.
Was it something that she just kind of didn't deal with?
It seemed like it bothered her, but she wouldn't talk about it. And I never pushed.
There's one, Diane's best friend,
Christine,
does know but doesn't want to talk about it.
Which I thought was like Christine.
I know.
Do we know why her mom left the house, or left the dad?
I did.
So you don't want to talk about her mom?
No. I'm sorry.
We cut from Christine being like, yeah, I know, but I'm not saying anything. And then I think it's her friend Michelle is like, mother ran away with the neighbor.
The mother left with the next door neighbor.
I think it was like a family friend.
But, you know, she never complained about it. She never talked about, like, it was as if, like, almost like she wasn't even there.
And I'm like, that sucks, and that is super traumatizing. Like, I'm not taking any weight away from that, but, like, it's not the crazy. Everyone's acting like I can't speak about why. Like, she ran away with the neighbor. Of all the things, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Oh, wow, so someone got divorced because another person was, one person in the marriage was interested in somebody else. That's not shocking,
It's true. Yeah. But we learned about Diane growing up that, like, she was really heavy at points. Mm-hmm. She never really had a boyfriend.
Right.
And then, but she was like super tight with her girlfriends in high school.
Yeah.
She won all kinds of superlatives. I was like, oh God, I haven't heard that word in a long time.
I know.
Senior superlative, she got like 7 of them. You know, she was loudest, most fun to be around.
Class
clown. You know, actually someone that didn't like to be in the spotlight. She was in the spotlight just because she had just such a big personality.
She was like, they were like the party girls, and they were like, well, we weren't crazy, but we were loud. And I'm like, I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you guys are.
We were definitely, I wouldn't say crazy. We weren't, but we were loud. We were fun. You know, we liked the attention.
They were like the loud party girls. They like traveled in the pack.
Totally.
And Diane, again, like everyone wanted to be liked by Diane, and if she didn't like you, you knew about it.
Yeah. So one of her high school friends, Michelle, she goes to Michelle's wedding. My God, she's like Michelle's like, she lost a ton of weight. She came to my wedding.
I guess it was right before my wedding is when she had lost the most weight ever. I looked amazing. And she had come to my wedding, and that's actually where she had met Danny.
They cut to pictures.
And Diane looks different in every single photo.
She looks so... There's like some photos of her in high school where she's really big.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this picture of her at this wedding and she looks like a marathon runner.
Yeah, and she's radiant. She just looks
Totally.
so happy
Yeah, totally.
in this photo.
But she meets Daniel at this wedding and she's like never had a boyfriend before and like falls immediately head over heels in love, and it's like, that's it. Like this is it. This is the man for me.
That was her first love, and I think she knew that, it was going to be her only love.
Yeah, and according to the friends, I mean, that relationship is what made them sort of just fall out of touch.
Oh, this is so heartbreaking because you hear Diane and Dan had been married for 13 years when Diane died. And these friends hadn't spoken to her in 10 years.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had spoken with her?
About 10 years.
10 years. Mm-hmm. So what happened with you guys that you didn't speak for all that time? How did that work? How did that work out?
Danny just likes to be Danny, and they like to do their own thing. And we never got into a fight. There was never an argument. There was never a reason why we stopped talking. It just stopped. That's it. There's no rhyme or reason why it ended.
And, you and I were talking, like, that happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes life happens and it's not something like the person didn't do anything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you just sometimes you realize, I don't have anything in common with this person anymore. And that sucks. And I wish them the best forever.
Yeah, totally.
But, like, what are we going to say over coffee?
So back to Daniel and Jay. They're like on this, it's like they're on this crusade to prove.
They're doing like a press junket.
I know.
They're on every television show.
They go on Larry King. Oh my God. I love that Larry King is like he's like not wasting any time.
He's literally like, tell me about the vodka bottle. What's that all about?
Daniel, how do you explain the vodka?
And what is the response?
Jay's like, well, we wanted to make pina coladas.
You have pina coladas. You
Sitting by a campfire, cooking marshmallows.
Patrick, you were a bartender for a long time.
I was, in fact. Yeah.
Do you use vodka and pina coladas?
Don't put vodka in a pina colada.
Sure don't. That is a rum cocktail, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Jay, you sweet, beautiful tropical fish.
Tropical fish, Jay. It's
I
not
know.
ironic. So the thing is, though, like, stop lying. Just say you guys had some cocktails.
So this is a good point. This is a good point in the conversation to talk about the other family that was killed, because they say on Larry King, like, we don't want this other family to think that their family was killed by a drunk driver.
Daniel, why appear here? Why keep on doing this?
The truth will come out.
But Larry, you have to understand, Danny doesn't want the other families to think that a drunk driver killed their families. That's why we are out to prove that she wasn't drunk.
We meet the Bastardi ladies. I love them.
The Bastardi, wait, what are their names?
Roseanne Guzzo and Margaret Nicotina. I love them. I'll go for coffee with them. I don't care if I don't have anything in common with them. I love these ladies. So they are, just to like stop the jokes real quick.
Yeah.
So the people who died in the car that Diane hit, Guy Bastardi, who was 49, Michael Bastardi, who was 81, and Daniel Longo, who was 74. So these ladies, Roseanne and Margaret, they're Guy's sisters.
Yeah.
And they have no time for the Schulers.
But you know what? They do have a lot of forgiveness for Diane, which I think is amazing. They're like, I've made my peace. I've forgiven Diane. You know who I haven't forgiven?
They're like the family, on the other hand.
I've gotten to a point, I forgive Diane Schuler. I pray for her like I pray for my father and my brother and those children. Right. The family that's still alive, I'm still working on.
Because they cannot handle, like, they even say they were like the lies and the stories that are changing. It's like, did you guys have that bottle or did you not? Were you making pina coladas? No.
Right. Was she smoking pot
vodka.
or not?
Like, so it's just, they are so frustrated, and I understand their point of view a zillion %.
If you just come forward and say, I'm sorry, she made a mistake, you could accept that. Right. But to have to keep lying and try to cover up, why? What are you trying to cover up? What happened?
And then I say to him, what's with the denial? You denying this is enabling other people to do the same thing.
I mean, the right thing to do is to admit, my wife was drunk.
Don't let this happen to your family.
Because they managed to do that thing that you can only do if you are really healed, which is to be frustrated without being angry. Because they don't seem angry. They seem frustrated, but kind of like they're going to get up from this interview and they're going to miss their family, but they're going to be able to go on with their lives in a way that like Daniel and Jay can't, because they're living in probably a lie.
Yes.
So as we said, like sprinkled throughout, we're sort of learning the timeline of what happened, but there's a lot of witnesses that they talk to.
There are tons of witnesses.
Yeah.
And do you want to know who my favorite is?
Yeah, who's your favorite?
Peter Grotto. Peter Grotto is never changed. Peter Grotto. This is not him retelling the story. We get audio. God bless the audio of him calling 911. And there are many people, like some people are just like, there's by this point, the police are like, we know, we're on it. Like everyone is calling about this driver. But Peter adds a little Long Island flair to it. Peter's like, you got a guy going the wrong way. Oof, maron. He's like a bat out of hell over here.
State Police 911.
Yeah, you got a guy driving south on a northbound Taconic Parkway. Ooh, Maron, I was in the left lane. Just Pleasantville Road. He's going like a bat out of hell. He should be already on the same parkway right now. It's a minivan.
Oof, Maron. On the 911 call. I mean,
I know.
That's a person who's so like confident in himself. Like never changed Peter Grotto, and you're never gonna. And I love you for it. And then of course you meet him. He's like in, at work or whatever. You can tell he's in like construction or whatever. And he's just like, no, seriously, it was like a bat out of hell over here. I said you got this guy.
At this point, we meet celebrity. What is his actual job?
He's like one of the most respected, if the most respected, like medical examiner, forensic.
He was the one in Mommy Dead and Dearest, where he was like, got his secretary. He was like, hey, tell them the cases I worked on.
Yeah, he did. He was if you saw West of Memphis, he's in that. He like totally changed the game for West of Memphis.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah,
and
totally.
he has no time for your bullshit or your feelings.
Well, he's reviewed the autopsy, so there's not any new science that he's bringing to the table. He's just bringing his perspective to the existing autopsy, because Dan has had a lot of questions about like whether it was handled badly, or did they maybe, like Jay says at one point, like, they saw that there was alcohol in her system and they didn't even look at anything else. She could have had a stroke. It could have been an abscess. But so first of all, they come into this like room. They come into this conference room and he's sitting and he's a million years old and he's like, I can't really get up. I'm all wired.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Dr. Smith.
I don't know if I can get up here because I'm all wired.
Yeah. It's very nice to meet you.
How are you?
Thank
Nice
you
to
for
meet you.
making the trip. We appreciate it.
You can tell it's like a high rise. This is like a super fancy.
Totally. And Jay comes in with her Diet Coke.
Because she can't smoke on camera yet. Exactly. She's still too stressed out, so she needs a little something.
Yeah. So they sit down, and basically Werner Spitz is like, yeah, the autopsy was done well.
And I gained the impression that the autopsy was done properly and was done well. So is there anything that would, based on the autopsy, account for this crash? Alcohol and marijuana, if you will.
He's like, so what accounted for it? The alcohol and the weed.
Right. And you can just see that like Dan and Jay are not having it. They're like, well, but what if, could it have been this? Could it have been that?
My favorite is when Daniel's like, what about the abscess tooth? And he's like, the what? And he goes, the abscess tooth.
What about the abscess tooth?
The which?
Abscess tooth.
Daniel's like, please, just tell me what I want to hear. And Werner goes, the abscess tooth? And you can tell he's like, is this guy fucking serious? A tooth?
An abscess tooth.
Could that cause a stroke?
Could that cause a stroke?
Yeah.
In theory, yes. But based on the autopsy, there is none that I saw on microscopy. And it doesn't cause alcohol formation.
And then Daniel's like, yeah, could it cause a stroke? And he's like, sure. But it can't cause a 0.21 alcohol.
Right,
like
exactly.
It can't
88.9% alcohol.
It just can't create that out of thin air. Like, could it cause a stroke? Of course.
Yeah.
Could it just like cause alcohol to be in your system? No.
Yeah.
The question of the alcohol will always prevail.
And he just says over and over again, like they just keep asking these questions, and he's like, sure.
Right.
Still got to go back to the weed and the booze, you guys. Still like.
Yeah, like, and it really is at this moment that you see like the deep, deep denial, And it, when you were like, I remember the first time I saw this movie, thinking back, like, but wait a minute, the lady at the trailer park says that she was fine. The guy at the McDonald's said she was fine.
That footage at the gas
she's fine.
station.
And the idea is floated that like at some point, and it probably happened really fast, all of a sudden her tooth hurt so much that she like had a swig of booze and then didn't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. It's hard to say, like, everyone said she was fine, yet there was all of this booze in her system.
Right. And like, from the weed could have been from the night before. And when we meet your girlfriend Betsy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about her. The director of toxicology in Westchester County.
Because she was just like, at the time of the accident, it was 0.19.
Yeah.
But it started with, like, when she was at her drunkest, she was like 0.21.
Yeah.
And then there's like the on-screen text of like what happens to you when you have this level of booze in you. And it's everything that she did.
It's complete blackout, like can't pay any attention.
Like
You're
motor skill, whatever. And there's also the thing where it's like every witness said that she was focused.
Yeah.
She wasn't, like usually when you think of a drunk driver or even when you see one on the road, someone swerving, you're like, shit, I got to get the hell out of Dodge. Like, but she wasn't driving like that.
It's just a matter of like, so if she wasn't drunk at the McDonald's and she wasn't drunk at the gas station, when did she drink that bottle of, like, did she have a cup that she was drinking from and all of a sudden she was too drunk? Like, who just doesn't pull over? I don't know. I
someone
can't
who wants everyone to think that they're perfect.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Someone who has been being the super mom she never had.
Yeah.
And having this amazing fairy tale perfect mother thing going on, and she couldn't admit that she was in any pain. Her husband hardly knew about her tooth problem.
There's a couple of more things that happen.
Yeah.
The whole crusade is that Jay and Daniel are trying to get a new, like, Diane's body exhumed and a new autopsy done. Yeah. And there's barriers to that are in the way. And at one point they get Jay like alone in the attic, and Jay just like lets it all hang out.
Yeah, I love how she like sort of steps off camera and does a little bit of a hush tone. Like, Jay, we can hear you and see half of your body. Like, it's
right, yeah.
But basically, she's like over Daniel, and she spills the tea, as it were, that like everyone's over him.
Yeah.
Because he's off all day. What are you doing all day?
I don't get it. I know it sounds stupid, but he's off all day. You're off all day. You don't even, no offense, you don't even see Brian. You bring him to school, you see him for 5 minutes, and you go. And he's driving, and everyone is like ready to put their foot down about him.
Right, like he's a security guard and he works overnight, and then his kid is at school all day, so he's not like with the kid. And I mean, what he's doing is grieving, I mean, like he's grieving. I can't even imagine it. I wonder too if, like, in his heart of hearts, he knows that the original autopsy was right. So maybe he's dragging his feet getting another autopsy done because he doesn't want to find out the truth. Which leads us to the phone call with Tom Ruskin, who we find out had actually gotten a second autopsy done 9 months ago. Mm-hmm. And, so Tom Ruskin is a dirtbag.
Right.
But up to this point, we've been left to believe that he just like disappeared off the scene.
Right.
Which is not actually the case. He was calling Jay and calling people. He had the autopsy. He wanted to tell them what had happened. But she's like, oh, I was told not to answer your phone calls.
As I promised Danny, we retested at the beginning of last year, and I devoted my time because there was no additional monies. But I sent the results to them.
To Dominic.
I never even heard back. And I called Danny, you.
Well, I was told not to pick up because at this point they didn't believe that you were doing anything.
So whenever that was trying to give you the results of the test.
So then I'm like, Jay, then why are you telling the documentary crew this whole time that
he just disappeared?
Come on.
We can't track him down.
Because they don't want to hear it. Because he says once again, now this is the millionth person to tell them that's real.
Right, yeah.
Nothing else caused it but drinking booze.
Right.
And smoking weed.
Yeah.
We retested the samples, and it came back the same. The toxicology and the autopsy was correct.
There's nothing else that caused that.
Right. In the end, it says that, like, Brian is at least in therapy, and he's, Jay tells this heartbreaking story about how he's been having tantrums and missing his mommy. And
Daniel, like, won't let him grieve, which is the worst thing a parent could do in that situation.
And then you see, like, Daniel and Brian walking down that path, like, in the woods, and Daniel tries to hold his hand, and he, like, takes his hand away, but then he kind of, like, puts it back. And, I mean, I've got a 3.5-year-old. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But it's devastating, and somebody says in the movie, like, we're never really gonna know,
Yeah, I mean, do you think she was?
So here's what I think.
Yeah,
she's a very smart woman who clearly loved her family. So I don't imagine that she got in that car drunk. What I can possibly imagine is that she had like a coffee cup full of booze, or she had like a water jug that people thought had water in it that had booze in it, and she just got too drunk. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think to make sense is that she was an alcoholic. She was secret drinking. I don't think she ever intended to hurt her kids. I don't understand how she could have pulled over at least twice that we know about.
Right.
Had been as drunk as she was and got back in the car and kept going. So that will always raise questions about...
And drive so precise.
Yeah.
That's the thing. She wasn't swerving. Her eyes weren't... When you're that hammered, like your eyes get heavy and her eyes wide open, ready to go.
But it just seems like if she was having some sort of medical emergency, she would have had the foresight to just stop and call somebody and say, like, my tooth hurts too much. I need an ambulance. Or I'm having... who knows? Like,
could she not... Was she so obsessed with people thinking that nothing bad, she wasn't experiencing any pain in any way in her life, that she wouldn't do that?
I don't know. And this is the great thing about this movie, is that it's an eternal mystery. We'll never know.
Yeah.
Before we did this podcast, this was the movie that I would go to and watch when I just wanted like a total mind F of a movie, because nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. It's why the movie is so brilliant.
Yeah.
So there's a warning at the top of the movie that there's like graphic images from the crash site.
Okay.
And I thought that it was like the news footage in the beginning. I forgot that like at the end they show her dead body. There are pictures of Diane Schuler dead, her eyes open.
It's horrible.
It's horrifying. And like not knowing it's going to be there, I couldn't pull my eyes away from it.
Bless this mess of an audio medium that we can't, there's not even that option.
I know.
It is horrifying.
It's horrifying.
And it's like so much. Like I get the horror of it. I just sat through an hour and 40 minutes of the story. I really didn't need that to be driven home.
Dead body.
And like the broken Absolute vodka bottle too.
Oh my
it's
God,
like,
we get
it.
I know,
it's
we get it. We get it.
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. You guys, thank you. Oh my God, thank you for holding our hand through that.
Yeah. You know what's great? Puppies and dogs and rainbows.
Gay pride. Woo! You guys, the iTunes reviews are just going gangbusters. Thank you.
I can't believe it.
People keep calling us crazy, so we love you counteracting that. It means the world to us.
Loving it.
Jillian, what is your Twitter handle?
I am at Jillian with a G, all spelled out like that.
I am at Patrick Hines. You can find us at True Crime Obsess. And you can find all of our episodes and all the good stuff at truecrimeobsessed.com.
Yep.
What are we doing next, girl?
We are doing Prophets Pray.
I had not heard of this, but Jillian promises that if we do an episode on Mormons, she'll be super funny.
Well, I just love the goddamn Mormon fundamentalists.
I know. God bless that mess.
Maybe it's because I'm in a big love rewatch because I love that show.
Yeah.
But this is just insane.
Totally. Now, you guys, we are taking next week off. I just want to say we are taking next week off. I don't want you to be mad. We are just taking a week off. We've done like 100 episodes in a row. We're almost at episode 20.
I know.
Isn't that insane?
It's crazy. And just give yourself, you work your ass off for this.
Yeah.
You deserve the week off.
Thank you.
I don't want any bullshit from anybody about it. You deserve it. You're taking the week off.
Ellen Marsh, I'm looking at you. Cut me some slack, girl.
Come on.
Listen, Jillian and I each make 100 podcasts. If you need a fix of us, go find me. I make a podcast called Theater People and Broadway Backstory. Jillian.
I make the Hamilcast.
So go find us. We love you, and we'll see you in a week.
Bye.
So here's the trailer for Prophets Pray, and then a couple of outtakes.
This is a revelation from the Lord God of heaven.
They had a plan ready to go in case something happened, and that something happened in April of 2008.
Hanging over this whole thing is, we got all these kids, we cannot have another Waco.
Our young people need to be protected from evil influences so that when they face evil, they already have a natural love for the truth.
My mom woke me up and says, "Hurry, we gotta get you dressed, you have an appointment with the prophet." When he asked me to marry him at 16, I honestly believe that that's what God wanted.
If you're keeping sweet no matter what, you're a person ready to give up your own will and just obey the priesthood over you.
He's abusing these kids, and then he would go right back on top of that stage and preach the word of God.
Warren told them to give him their paycheck, everything they make.
The assets are worth $110 million, and it's all his.
We need to stop Warren S. Jeffs from destroying families, kicking us out of our homes, and marrying our children.
They physically surrounded the temple, praying for our destruction before we went in.
We never really knew how sick he really was, how young the girls were.
They started taking the kids off the ranch thinking there were just a few, and they just kept coming. 100, 200, 300.
If Warren told them to die at their posts, they would die at their posts. It's wise not to discount that possibility.
He prays for my destruction. Well, if I was religious, I would pray for his destruction.
You must be filled with the heavenly fire, or you will be damned, and you will lose your place. How much more straight do I have to talk?
By 9:56 a.m., they stop at the McDonald's in Liberty, New York.
Because let's be honest, who doesn't want to have McDonald's for breakfast every day?
I mean,
I know.
You're already on the road.
It's travel food. My husband will tell you all about it.
This is the time, you guys. And it's so like, it's got to be fast, and we really want to get home and beat the traffic.
And,
any excuse in the book.
And you're not going to make a McGriddle at home. You're going to get it at McDonald's.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a homemade McGriddle. What are you talking about? And she's on a mission. She's looking for something. They don't have whatever she's looking for. She's on her way.
Probably Yoo-Hoo. That's what I'm always looking for when I go into a convenience store at a gas station.
My dad loves Yoo-Hoo.
I love
Yoo-Hoo. If you get like a bagel in the morning, you know,
you
and
get a
you're
Yoo-Hoo.
like, yeah. Play practice. That's such a parent. That's like everyone's aunt calls it play practice,
I used to have a neighbor when I was growing up where every time I would leave the house, they'd say, "Are you going acting?
Are you going acting?" That's amazing.
My friend Allison, who listens to this podcast, will corroborate.
Are you going
acting?
Yes.
I want a bumper sticker that says, "I'd rather be acting."
I'd rather be going acting.
Gone acting.
Gone acting. Yes. Oh my God.